Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we provide a daily view on world markets and the global economy. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Coming up today, China's rate cut fails to calm Chinese markets, and tension and trash pile high in Lebanon. Let's start now with the market headlines. Well, China's interest rate cut failed to halt the plunge in Chinese equities on Wednesday. The Shanghai Stock Exchange extended its steepest five-day drop since 1996 in volatile trading, falling 1.3% on Wednesday. Well, since mid-June, Chinese stocks have lost half their value despite a ream of stimulus measures by the government in Beijing. Meanwhile, world markets struggled to shrug off China fears as well. European stocks opened lower, but paired losses later in the day. The Stoxx Europe 600 traded down 0.1%. London's FTSE 0.1% higher, DAX down 0.1%, and the French CAC up 0.1%. Dow futures suggesting a 400-point open to the upside. Meanwhile, world trade recording its largest contraction since the 2008 crisis. According to the World Trade Monitor, global trade volume slid 0.5% in the 3 months to June. World trade rebounded 2% in the month of June, but economists at the Monitor cautioned that monthly numbers are volatile. The World Trade Organization, meanwhile, has pointed to Europe's sluggish recovery and the evident crisis in China as reasons for the low trade data. And Tel Aviv markets were down almost 1.5% this morning, and the shekel weakened more than 1% against the dollar on Wednesday. The Israeli exchange was affected by the continued concerns over poor Chinese economic performance, which dragged down markets around the world once again this week. Yesterday, Bank of Israel Governor Karnit Flug expressed a certain level of pessimism about the short-term future of global markets, even after a small bounce back in the Tel Aviv market. Let's take a listen.
I think it's still too early to tell whether a small rise in the market spells the end of the market rout. Central banks, even when they reach zero interest, they still have options at their disposal. And this is true today as well. There are countries with negative rates. We can reach that in certain circumstances. We can reach that as well.
Amid the tumult in world markets, global central bankers are now preparing to meet in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this week. The annual mountain getaway usually focuses on major global economic issues. This year's summit is sure to focus on the latest tumult affecting the world's #2 economy. For analysis now on world markets, we are joined via phone by Ronen Sana, a financial markets expert in the New York area. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Natalie.
Well, what's your expectation for U.S. markets today?
Well, as you said, the futures are indicating an open of about 400 points higher. We had a very similar situation yesterday in which we rallied more than 400 points, only to close down 200. It looks like the market has a little bit more staying power today. I'm not quite sure what the catalyst is, quite frankly, with Asia not doing quite as well as one would have expected given the rate cut out of China, and even European stocks coming under pressure. It's hard to find a particular headline that might be driving this market up, although it was certainly due for a bounce given how hard we've fallen in the last week and a half.
That is an interesting point. How long do you think we'll see the sell-off in China?
I don't know. I think China has a lot of structural problems. I don't think this is, as one person said in an op-ed piece today, that this is just a correction. A correction is not a better than 40% decline from the most recent high. This is a bear market. China's market has effectively crashed, and so there's some damage that's been done. If you look at electricity output in China, which is an interesting proxy for economic growth, it's flat year over year, which tells you that the Chinese economy is growing nowhere near the 7% rate that the government says. So I think this could last for a while, unless they put together a much more coherent and consistent package of both reforms and measures to prop up the market. I think that while we may see a bounce in Chinese shares, I'm not quite sure the sell-off is done.
Well, what do you think is the fallout for the global economy and even the U.S. economy?
It's hard to tell. 6% of our exports in the U.S. go to China. 13% of our GDP is comprised of exports. So, I mean, certainly if they were to fall off, it would have a meaningful impact on economic activity. It would affect companies that have really large exposure to China in terms of doing business there. The U.S. is a little more self-contained than a lot of other economies with respect to the composition of growth. 70% of our GDP is made up of domestic consumption, consumer spending. And so while it would be hard to avoid the fallout from a real recession in China and a continued market decline, I think given the fact that energy prices are down, that interest rates are low, we probably have some offsetting factors that will keep the economy in relatively good stead.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insight. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Natalie.
Well, it's summertime here in Israel, a time for the beach, a time to relax, and for some, a time to intern. Earlier, we spoke with ToMe Group and one of its interns this summer. On set, we have David Mickley, the Fellowship Director at ToMe Group, a nonprofit which gives undergraduate students hands-on interaction with the Israeli economy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, David, tell us firstly, what is the mission behind this group?
ToMe Group's goal is to integrate the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs with the Israeli economy. And we do that through two ways. One is our students during the academic year work on consulting projects pro bono for Israeli companies. And the other is we bring our top students to Israel for a 2-month intensive internship experience where they intern at Israeli startups, meet great business leaders from across different industries, and basically develop their skills while helping startups grow and succeed.
So this is basically an intensive internship program, but why Israel?
You know, if you look at where is the best place to do startup work in the entire world, Israel is either number 1, number 2, or number 3. It's at the top of the list for sure. So we feel like giving our students a chance to experience what it's like to be in this entrepreneurial ecosystem that has had an amazing track record of companies that have influenced and made the world a better place will give them amazing experiences to take back home and develop their own entrepreneurial skills.
And so this program is attracting students from all over the world who are interested in the high-tech scene specifically?
Yeah, currently we're mostly focused on U.S. students, but we are looking to expand where there is interest. We have a presence on 29 campuses across the United States, including Harvard, Penn, Berkeley, UCLA, a bunch others too. We have over 1,500 student members, and they come from all different backgrounds: Jewish, Christian, atheists. We're not political, we're not religious. We're a professional development organization that's focused on the Israeli economy.
Great. Well, here we have an example of that. We're joined by Richard Holmes. Tell us about your experience. Why did you decide to come to Israel and join this program?
So originally, I wasn't super involved in Israel at all. I'm not Jewish, so I didn't have a huge connection originally, and my perception of Israel was much of like, I don't know, the Gaza Strip, crazy stuff happening. I didn't really understand it at all. And so I went to a student activities fair and saw this amazing business club. I applied for this fellowship because I felt like it was a really unique opportunity. Personally, I don't have time to study abroad during the school year. And so I ended up getting the internship, and I was able to come here, and it's been an absolutely amazing experience. I feel so much more connected, abroad, and I feel like I really have some unique perspective on Israel that I'm able to bring home to like my family members. Like when they first sent me, they were so concerned about me going to Israel and being somewhere in the Middle East, and they thought that it was going to be very dangerous. But like being able to tell them like, no, it's just like living in America. There's several similarities, and I'm getting this amazing opportunity. It's quite simply
Tell
amazing.
us though about this opportunity. It'd be fascinating to hear. What are you doing?
So I'm involved in a business development role at JobSwipe. It's like a platform that connects recruiters and candidates in a more personal way when you're looking for jobs. So right now I'm working on international sales strategies, monetization strategies, and growth and development. And I've been doing a little bit of user growth modeling, a little bit of revenue projections, and creating investor slide decks. But it's a very young startup, and so it changes day to day. And so I've been involved in so many different things,
All right. And what else would you add here to this? As the director, of course.
Yeah, I think my position is the fellowship director, but this is a student-run organization led by students for students. So I think it's really about the fellows first and foremost. What makes it such an incredible organization is that there's over 1,500 members in this network and only 3 full-time staff. The rest is all done by students. They're coming here to work, to get their hands dirty, to do real meaningful work. There's so many amazing stories of what our interns have done this summer. One student, his CEO had to leave his first week of the internship to go to Germany to fundraise. So he was left not really sure what to do, but there was a conference that his CEO wanted him to be at, and not just be at, but he wanted him to pitch at. So he had to learn the company just in a few days and then pitch the company to over 300 potential investors and partners, and he was ready to do it. It was an amazing experience. So I'd say that our students are coming to get a meaningful, substantive experience, and if you're the manager in a startup, if you're looking to get some help from some amazingly talented U.S. students and are willing and able to give the real time to mentor them appropriately, please be in touch with me. My email is dmikley, D-M-I-C-L-E-Y, at ToMeGroup.org. Be in touch with me about internships. Be in touch with me about consulting projects. Our students are looking for so many ways to get connected to the Israeli economy. So if you're interested in partnering, let's talk.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, the trash crisis in Lebanon is intensifying. Shelby Weiner has the details.
Trash piling high in the roads is the latest epidemic of Lebanon's governmental crisis. The country's largest landfill was shut down on July 19th, but authorities never agreed to an alternative waste treatment. Garbage began to line the streets of Beirut, the stench reminding citizens of their governmental disaster.
The country is truly at its worst situation. The deep political division is reflected in all the state institutions to a point where corruption is being legalized, in addition to the garbage and electricity crisis.
On July 27th, the Lebanese environmental minister announced waste collections would resume in the capital. But the question where to remained. The announcement came with no agreement on rubbish dumping until they got consent from the local residents. Protesters took to the streets, burning hundreds of trash cans in the midst of a hot and now putrid summer. Many Lebanese citizens are fed up.
Our leaders are living in towers and we're living around the rubbish. I wish that all the Lebanese people would revolt, no matter where they live, their sect or their religion, because we're all being drowned in rubbish.
For 25 years, Beirut has been suffering from power cuts, a remnant infrastructure problem from the end of Lebanon's civil war. But the government is weakened by the war erupting on the Syrian border. The conflict further divided Lebanese politics along religious lines, a reflection of their war-torn neighbor. And the Lebanese government has been without an elected leader for over a year.
I hope they elect a president so that all these issues can be solved, including the electricity and garbage crisis.
But hope is out of sight after someone was killed at the latest round of protests. Beirut erupted in violent demonstrations as the prime minister was preparing to meet with You Stink, the protest organizers. Over 75 demonstrators and police officers have been injured so far, and garbage continues to overrun the city.
Well, for the Pulse now in the Middle East, we are joined on set by our one and only Ayman Siksak. Thank you, as ever, for being with us. What did you bring?
Really good to be here. Well, first of all, I want to tell you about the biggest story this week, of course, the Chinese crisis in stocks. This is also affecting Middle East stocks, mainly in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. Both stock exchanges fell 7% on worries on what's going on in China, and this, of course, has been happening all over the world, Europe, the US, the Middle East, too. But the Middle East has its own problems. It's not all on China. It's also partly because of continuing to tumble oil prices. This has been going on all year. Oil prices have more than halved since the beginning of the year. And Fitch Ratings has reduced Saudi Arabia's rating from stable to negative, which really hurt the country. Of course, Saudi Arabia's main export is oil. And we know that the prices per barrel of Brent crude was $68 a barrel last year. Now it stands at $45. That's a huge tumble.
Wow.
So this is also really affecting the stocks in both Dubai and Saudi Arabia.
Indeed, especially because of China being such a big importer of oil, and now with their economy being so fragile, it seems really bad. What else did you bring?
Well, the next story is related business confidence in the Middle East, and we're still on Saudi Arabia and Qatar, two very, very differing situations. It seems that most financial firms and the biggest firms in the Middle East are losing confidence in investing in firms within their own region. So 43% of those surveyed by huge financial companies said they do not want to invest in the Middle East in 2015 or 16, and then instead they want to take their investments outside. Russia, the US, and Europe are attractive destinations for Middle Eastern investors.
What's causing that pessimism, though?
Well, we're seeing it actually all over the world. India, too. Investors in India are choosing to invest outside. There's a trend of foreign investment going outside its country of origin. But within the Middle East, because of the crisis of oil that's been going on for so long and it's not showing any signs of picking up, this is also really affecting decisions by the big heavyweights in the financial business.
It's surprising you said they're going into Russia.
They are. There are several cooperations with Russia. Russia is hugely interested in the Middle East. We know it's interested in Iran. It had talks with Greece on solving its financial crisis. Russia wants a foothold in the Middle East.
All right. Well, just lastly, real quick, what's the good news?
Well, I would say that Gaza, there's a huge strike that's been going on for quite some time now, and we know that government workers have decided to join the strikes. That means that schools and government services will be shut down starting this Thursday. They're protesting against cut wages, partial salaries paid. Teachers are joining this strike too. It's not good news, but if they do succeed, this will be good news for the social fabric within Gaza.
Right. Well, I guess I was too optimistic on that. Good news. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Natalie.
That wraps up our show today. Stay tuned tomorrow from the Jaffa Port in Tel Aviv. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you so much for watching.